Hi everyone, welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul, and today we're going to be doing an unboxing and overview of one of the latest motherboards in the GIGABYTE G1 Killer gaming motherboard series. This is the GIGABYTE G1.ASSASSIN 2. So apart from the military theme and flaming skulls that you get with the entire G1 Killer line from GIGABYTE, the G1.ASSASSIN is first and foremost a brand new X79 series motherboard. So it features the 2011 socket for the newer Sli Bridge E processors from Intel. Along with that socket, of course, you get the X79 chipset, which has a lot of awesome inherent features, but we're going to go over what's listed on the box here. You get Bluetooth 4.0 as well as Wi-Fi. You get an integrated Killer E2100 network gaming NIC that's integrated onto the board. You get Creative X-Fi extreme fidelity sound. You get the GIGABYTE 3D power, which is their new digital engine that provides power to both the CPU and the memory sockets. You also get a 3D BIOS, which is a unique UEFI BIOS implementation that gives you an actual visual layout of all of the parts on the motherboard. And for a closer look at that, it's down here in the bottom right. You will actually see a visual of the particular motherboard that you're using. You can mouse over it using the mouse in the BIOS, and by clicking on different parts such as the CPU and DIMM sockets or such as the SATA ports, you can go directly to those to configure them. So it gives you a graphical layout and a much easier method of obtaining to get into the actual specs and settings for all of those. Apart from that, we got super speed up here, so that's talking about the Killer integrated NIC. Also, you get SATA 3, 6 gigabit per second ports. You get a front access panel. I'm going to show you all this stuff once I actually get this out of the box. Some more information on that Creative X-Fi sound. You also get Dolby Digital Live, DTS. You get some awesome looking heat sinks for all of the components on the board. And finally, that 3D power stuff, which the digital power gives you more control, more precise tuning over the power delivery to your CPU, and that's great for overclocking as well as maintaining those overclock settings once you've set them up. Next up, let's actually see what comes in the box. All right, here is another box inside the box. Here is some more boxes inside. You get lots of boxing protection with this G1.ASSASSIN. There's the motherboard itself. I'm going to come back to that and go over it all in detail. For starters, though, let's see what else you get. Here are some G1 Killer decals that you can affix to your case. G1 Killer logos, the aforementioned flaming skull, which goes just great. Here's that GIGABYTE G1 Killer poster that you get. You can hang that up on your wall, use it for target practice, or to scare your friends with the flaming skull. Here is your motherboard documentation, so you get a motherboard manual there with all of the pertinent information you need to know. Make sure to keep that on hand while you're doing your build. You also get the X79 Gaming Series Utility DVD, as well as a Wi-Fi utility DVD. So it should have all of your drivers and whatnot on it. It's usually best to download the latest drivers directly from the manufacturer's website, but you've got that on hand as well in case you need a backup. Some information on the Wi-Fi functions. Here is some manual in French. Here's the multilingual installation guidebook that supplements your full guidebook here as far as installation and making sure that you've got your CPU installed correctly, all those important things. You also get, of course, a GIGABYTE logo to display proudly on your case, along with all of the decals. What else do we have in here as far as accessories? There's a lot of them, so let me just quickly get them all out here so we can go over each one. Okay, this is an SLI bridge. This motherboard is capable of 3-way SLI, so you get a solid, rigid 3-way SLI bridge there for those of you who are going with a 3-card setup using NVIDIA cards. Also, of course, Crossfire capable. If you're going to go with a Crossfire solution, those bridges are usually included with your video card. Here's a PCI bracket for the back of your case, and this is the included Wi-Fi riser. So you have Wi-Fi right out of the box, which is not included on a lot of actual motherboards these days. Here are a couple antennas that you can actually situate wherever you get the best possible reception for your Wi-Fi connection. There's a 2-way SLI bridge if you're going to go with a 2-way setup for SLI. Here are your serial ATA cables. You have 4 included. 2 of them have L brackets on one end. Those will, of course, be compatible with serial ATA revision 3, 6 gigabit per second. Hey, and they actually have dropped in a Crossfire Bridge there along with the Sli Bridge. So got a Crossfire Bridge there if you're going to set up 2-card Crossfire solution. Here is what appears to be, this is an extension. It's actually a USB type header, but I'm guessing it may or may not actually be that function. But this works with your included Wi-Fi riser card to connect that over to your motherboard. You get a 3.5-inch front panel accessory here. This is some USB 3.0 ports. If you don't have those included on your computer case, it goes to a 20-pin USB 3.0 internal connector. And then finally, you have your G1 Killer input-output shield there for the back of your case. Again, a G1 Killer logo on there, so everyone who looks at your computer will know exactly what kind of hardware you have inside. Now let's move on to the motherboard itself. And there's a look at the G1.ASSASSIN 2 itself. As you can see, it's got a dark brown or black PCB in the background there, and then all of your additional colors are black and lime green throughout. For starters, I wanted to point out the fan headers. You do have all 4-pin PWM controlled fan headers on this board. So up here at the top is the CPU fan right there. You also get a chassis fan right here, another one over here, one down here at the bottom, one down here in the bottom left, and that makes 5. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the specific features of this board, and for that we're going to start down here on the bottom right, where you have, of course, the fan header. Next to that is all of your front panel connectors there. They're color-coded inside this little container, so you can tell which one's which. Next, you have 3 USB 2.0 headers for USB 2.0 ports on the front. The one with the red background there is one of the higher power USB headers, so you can plug that in there, and then you'll have additional power to charge your devices via that red header. There's a few more of those on the back of the board as well. Right here is a trusted platform module header, and then over here on the left you have your audio header, which is compatible with HD audio or AC97. Above that we can see our Pci Express area, and as previously mentioned, we have support for both 2-way and 3-way Crossfire X or SLI configurations. These Pci Express ports here are all physically 16-speed ports. The upper one here and the lower one here are all actually wired for 16-speed. Middle one is wired for X8. So you get X16, X16, and X8 in the middle. You can actually run 2 at full X16 speeds, or if you're running 3-way, they all default to X8. All of these PCI Express slots are physically compatible with PCIe 3.0 or Generation 3 PCI Express. Just bear in mind that as of the filming of this video, there are actually no PCI Express Gen 3 cards available. So they will tell you at this point that it is compatible with that. However, we're going to need to wait till 2012 to actually get some of those cards in, start testing and performance. In between the full-length PCI Express slots, we have a couple single-speed PCI Express slots, and then finally down here at the bottom is a legacy PCI slot. Moving on over here to the right, we have our X79 chipset, which is right underneath this gun, which is the heatsink for that chipset. It gives you a nice little bit of bling on the motherboard there. It's got a little skull there with a knife in the teeth, which is pretty tough looking. I did want to point out here, there's some text that says heatsink, not a weapon, cannot be assembled as a firearm, so don't think that you can pull these off of here and actually start running around and shooting people. But bear that in mind. So there's your X79 chipset under there. It controls quite a few of the functions and the different features of this board. For starters, you do get a integrated serial ATA controller within that chipset. Those are right here. You get 6 of these ports here that are controlled directly by the chipset. The black ones here on the left, the 4 black ones, are SATA revision 2 compatible, so 3 gigabit per second. 2 white ones here are SATA revision 3, 6 gigabit per second ports. And bear in mind, if you're going to be plugging in, for example, an SSD as your operating system drive, those are the ports that you will want to use. Gigabyte has provided some additional SATA revision 3 ports. Those are these gray ones over here on the left. Those are connected to a Marvell controller. And those will also give you 6 gigabit per second speeds. Going to be just a notch or 2 slower than the native ports over here, but they do give you some additional SATA ports for that. Moving along, we have a USB 3.0 front panel header right there, the black header. We have our 24-pin main motherboard power connector. Moving up the side, or actually I'm going to flip it back this way now. We're moving on to the CPU socket area, and you'll notice this is a 2011 socket, so it is very sizable. And due to the amount of additional peripherals, such as the special sound that they've integrated, as well as the killer NIC, we have 4 DIMM slots overall. So you do get quad-channel memory support with this motherboard. You can have memory overclock speeds. You can do up to 32 gigabytes of memory if you're using 8 gigabyte DIMMs. You can fit 16 gigabytes of memory if you're using 4 gigabyte DIMMs, and it supports memory overclock speeds of up to 2,133 megahertz. There's your 2011 socket, as mentioned, protective cover. Make sure you keep that on until you install your CPU. This does have a very sturdy base here, so most of your aftermarket CPU cooler solutions will actually mount directly to this base, so no bracket on the back of the motherboard necessary unless you're going to be using a fairly exotic aftermarket CPU cooler. Up here at the top, we have an additional heatsink for our voltage regulation area for the VRMs up at the top. It is shaped in the form of a gun barrel, so you can get a look at that right there. It does got the Gigabyte logo as well as the lime green highlighting. And there is a heat pipe running from this all the way down here to the heatsink for the chipset, so that'll provide adequate heat dissipation between those two heat sinks. Right up here at the very top is our 8-pin supplemental CPU power connector. Gonna want to make sure you plug that in. And then over here on the left we have, well, lots of capacitors and chokes and whatnot for all of the additional hardware integrated onto this board. Let's finish off here with our inputs and outputs. And the red ports that you're going to see back here are USB 2.0 ports, but they do have that increased power output, so you can charge your devices faster if you're plugging into those. Speed-wise, they will operate at USB 2.0 speed, so you got a couple right there and a couple more over here on the right. You have a dual-use PS2 connector there for a keyboard or a mouse. You have an external overclock button, so you can just use that for a simple one-button overclock. And then this is actually a dual BIOS button, so this is a button you can automatically use to switch back and forth between 2 integrated BIOS. So you can use that as a backup if you're flashing and you have your flash fail, or if you want to, say, set up 2 different overclock settings and jump back and forth between those, you can easily do that with an externally mounted button. You got a clear CMOS button right below that. A couple more USB 2.0 ports up here. Those are just typical power output. You got a couple more SATA revision 3 6 gigabit per second eSATA ports right here, again controlled by a Marvell controller. You have 2 USB 3.0 ports here, and those are controlled by a Fresco FL1009 chip that's integrated onto the board. You have your RJ45 port here, and that is connected directly to the killer E2100 NIC. That will, if you install the killer software that's included, you'll get much more granular control over all of your networking functions. So for example, if you have a game running and you're also downloading in the background, you can set your game to a higher priority to make sure that you have less drop packets, better connection speed overall, make sure that when you're gaming in particular, you're going to have the best and most stable connection possible. And finally, here are your audio outs, and those are for the integrated Creative X-Fi. It's controlled by a Creative CA20K2 chip, support for Dolby Digital Live, DTS Connect, X-Fi Extreme Fidelity, EAX Advanced HD 5.0 technology. You got an optical Toslink out right there that you can use for an optical connection, or you can use your analog outs here, your 1/8" jacks, and those do support 2, 4, 5.1, or 7.1 channel audio out. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. Once again, this has been the Gigabyte G1.ASSASSIN 2 gaming motherboard featuring the X79 chipset and the 2011 socket for Intel's new Sli Bridge E line of processors. I'm Paul with Newegg TV. If you enjoyed today's video, please head over to our Newegg YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more tech videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.